Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching space bend around his ship as they dropped out of fold space. The stars snapped back into focus, and Jake felt his stomach settle after the strange sensation of traveling faster than light. His crew of 20 had been through this jump 100 times in training, but this was different. This was real. "Report," Jake called out, his voice steady despite the excitement building in his chest. Lisa Kane looked up from her engineering station, her blonde hair catching the bridge lights. "All systems green, Captain. The new fold drive worked perfectly. We're exactly where we wanted to be." Jake nodded and turned to Ryan Blake at the tactical station. The young officer was scanning the space around them with focused intensity. "What do we see out there, Ryan?" "Sir, I'm picking up several ships about 2 light hours away. They're using old fusion drives, moving really slow compared to what we can do." "And Captain?" Ryan paused, checking his readings again. "They're in our old solar system, the one where Earth Colony 7 used to be." Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her science station. Her brown eyes were wide with surprise. "Captain, those ships aren't human. The engine signatures don't match anything in our historical database." Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. Earth Colony 7 had been one of humanity's largest settlements before the war, before they had to leave, before they had to hide. "Amy, are you sure?" "Positive, sir. Those are definitely alien vessels. And they're acting like they own the place." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. For 500 years, humanity had been hiding in the dark corners of space, rebuilding their strength and developing new technology. They had always planned to come back someday, but they never knew what they would find when they did. "Lisa, can you get us closer without being detected?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers danced over her control panel. "The new stealth system should keep us invisible to their sensors. Those ships are using technology that's at least 300 years behind ours. Do it. Take us in slow and quiet." The New Horizon moved forward like a ghost in space. Jake watched the main screen as the alien ships grew larger. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and exposed machinery. Nothing like the smooth, elegant designs humans had developed during their exile. "Captain," Ryan said quietly, "I'm detecting a space station in orbit around the planet. It's massive, maybe 10 times bigger than anything we ever built." Amy was studying her readings carefully. "The life signs down on the planet. Captain, there are billions of beings down there, but they're not human." Jake's hands clenched into fists. Earth Colony 7 had been home to 50 million humans before the war. Now aliens lived there instead, as if humanity had never existed at all. "Sir," Ryan continued, "I'm picking up communication signals. The translation computer is working on them now." A few minutes later, alien voices filled the bridge. The computer had converted their strange language into English, though the mechanical translation made everything sound flat and emotionless. "Cargo ship Thunderwing requesting docking permission at Station 7, one voice said. "Permission granted, Thunderwing. Proceed to docking Bay 15, another replied. "What's the latest news from the Galactic Council?" the first voice asked. "Same as always. The Talaxians are arguing with the Corvin about trade routes. The Zephyrians are being difficult about mining rights. Nothing we haven't heard before." Jake listened carefully, memorizing every word. These aliens talked like they had been here for a very long time. They acted like this was their home now. "Captain," Amy said softly, "I'm detecting some interesting data transmissions. It looks like historical records. Should I try to access them?" "Do it, but be careful. We can't let them know we're here." Amy worked quietly for several minutes, her face growing more and more troubled as she read. Finally, she looked up at Jake with tears in her eyes. "Captain, according to their records, humanity is listed as an extinct species. They think we all died out 500 years ago during the war with the Zephyrians." The bridge was so quiet that Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines. Extinct. The galaxy thought humanity was gone forever. "What else do their records say?" Jake asked. "They divided up all our old worlds among themselves after we disappeared." The Talaxian Confederacy took most of our core systems. The Corvin Syndicate claimed the outer colonies. The Zephyrians kept some worlds as war trophies. Amy's voice was getting angry now. They carved up human space like we never mattered at all. Ryan was studying his tactical display. Captain, their ships are slow and their weapons are weak. The station's defenses wouldn't last 5 minutes against our new technology. Jake knew Ryan was right. During their 500 years in exile, humanity had made incredible advances. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their technology more advanced than anything these aliens could imagine. But Jake also knew that rushing into a fight wasn't the smart thing to do. "We need more information," Jake said. "How many species are we dealing with? How strong are their governments? What kind of military do they have?" "I can capture one of their patrol ships," Lisa suggested. "The new boarding pods could put a team on their vessel before they even know we're there." Jake thought about it. They needed to know what they were up against, but they also needed to be careful. One wrong move could start a war that humanity wasn't ready for yet. "Do it," Jake decided. "But use the smallest ship possible. I want prisoners, not bodies. We need them alive so they can answer our questions." Lisa nodded and began preparing the boarding operation. Jake watched the alien ships on his screen and felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger at seeing aliens living on human worlds, sadness for all the humans who had died during the exile, but also excitement because he knew this was just the beginning. Humanity was back, and the galaxy was about to learn that you can never keep humans down for long. "Contact the fleet," Jake ordered. "Tell them we've found our old worlds, and they're occupied. It's time to start planning our return." The New Horizon continued its silent watch as Jake began to plan humanity's comeback. The aliens had no idea that their peaceful day was about to change forever. The massive doors of Nexus Prime's main docking bay opened with a loud hiss. Admiral Helen Brooks stepped off her ship, the Earth's Vengeance, wearing a crisp blue uniform that no alien had seen for 5 centuries. Behind her walked Dr. Peter Gray, a tall man with gray hair who carried a translation device, and Colonel Marie Webb, whose sharp eyes scanned everything around them like a predator looking for threats. The aliens waiting for them tried to hide their shock, but Helen could see it in their faces. The Zephyrian Prime Minister Keltar, a lizard-like being with green scales, kept blinking his large yellow eyes. The Talaxian Chancellor Vexmos, who looked like a cross between a bird and a fish, had his mouth hanging open. War Chief Thrax of the Corvin Syndicate, a massive creature covered in black fur, was growling softly under his breath. "Impossible," Keltar whispered in his hissing voice. "Humans are extinct. Our records clearly show that your species died out during the Great War." Helen smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "As you can see, Prime Minister, your records are wrong. Humanity is very much alive." The aliens led them through the station's corridors to the main council chamber. Helen noticed how old everything looked. The walls were made of basic metal plates. The lighting was dim and flickering, and the air recycling system made strange noises. It was like stepping back in time. The council chamber was a large room with a circular table in the center. The alien leaders took their seats, still staring at the humans like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. "So," Chancellor Vexmos said, his voice making chirping sounds, "you are survivors, a small group that somehow escaped the destruction. We understand your desire for revenge, but surely you realize that 500 years have passed. The galaxy has moved on." Dr. Gray activated his translation device, which began recording everything for later analysis. Helen sat down across from the alien leaders and placed a small data pad on the table. "You misunderstand our situation," Helen said calmly. "We are not survivors seeking revenge. We are representatives of the Human Federation, which has grown quite large during our absence from galactic politics." War Chief Thrax laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Large? How large could you be? A few thousand? A few million? The Corvin Syndicate alone has a population of over 2 trillion beings." Helen touched her data pad, and a holographic display appeared above the table. The aliens leaned forward to look at the images showing massive space stations, beautiful cities on dozens of worlds, and fleets of advanced ships. "The Human Federation currently has a population of 47 billion people spread across 86 worlds," Helen said. "We have been very busy during our time away." The aliens stared at the images with growing concern. The human cities looked more advanced than anything they had ever seen. The ships in the hologram were sleek and powerful, nothing like the bulky vessels that filled galactic space now. This cannot be real, Keltar said, his voice shaking slightly. If humanity had this kind of population, this kind of technology, we would have detected you. Colonel Webb spoke for the first time, her voice hard as steel. You would have detected us if we wanted you to. Our stealth technology is somewhat more advanced than your sensors. To prove her point, Webb touched a control on her wrist. Suddenly, 6 more humans appeared in the room, shimmering into view like ghosts becoming solid. They had been standing there invisible the entire time, watching and listening. The alien leaders jumped back in fear. Thrax reached for his weapon but found that his hand wouldn't move. One of the newly visible humans, a young woman with short red hair, was pointing a small device at him. Neural inhibitor, the woman explained cheerfully. It disrupts the electrical signals in your nervous system. Completely harmless, but it makes it hard to do things like draw weapons or call for help. Helen continued as if nothing had happened.
As I was saying, humanity has developed quite a bit during our exile.
We have technology that you can't imagine, scientific knowledge that you haven't discovered, and medical advances that could extend your lifespans by thousands of years. Dr. Gray leaned forward. For example, Admiral Brooks here is actually 230 years old. Our life extension technology allows humans to live indefinitely while maintaining perfect health. The aliens looked at Helen with new eyes. She appeared to be in her 30s, strong and healthy. The idea that she was older than their great-grandparents was impossible to accept. What do you want from us? Chancellor Vexmos asked quietly. Helen's expression became serious. We want our worlds back. All of them. Every planet that humanity colonized before the war we claim as our territory once again. Impossible, Keltar hissed. Those worlds have been settled for 5 centuries. Billions of beings call them home now. Then they can find new homes, Helen replied. We also want compensation for 500 years of illegal occupation. Raw materials, technology, whatever you can provide to make up for the damage you've done to our former colonies. War Chief Thrax had finally gotten control of his hand back. He slammed it on the table, making a loud noise. You cannot simply return after 5 centuries and demand that we give you everything. The galaxy doesn't work that way. Helen stood up slowly. As she did, all the hidden humans in the room became visible again. There were dozens of them, all armed with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. War Chief, Helen said softly, let me be very clear about something. We are not asking for your permission. We are informing you of our decision. You have 1 standard month to consider our terms. Colonel Webb placed another datapad on the table. These are the coordinates of your military bases, the locations of your fleets, and the defensive capabilities of your major worlds. As you can see, we have been watching you for quite some time. The information on the pad was incredibly detailed. It showed things that should have been impossible for anyone to know, secret military installations that were hidden from their own allies. How did you get this information? Vexmos whispered. Dr. Gray smiled. We have our ways. Advanced computers, artificial intelligence, quantum sensors, stealth ships, and a few other technologies that you haven't invented yet. Helen walked toward the door, followed by her team. 1 month, gentlemen. Use that time wisely. Decide if you want to negotiate a peaceful transition, or if you prefer to test our military capabilities. As the humans reached the door, Keltar called out desperately. Wait, surely we can discuss this reasonably. There must be some compromise we can reach. Helen turned back one last time. Prime Minister, we tried compromise 500 years ago. We tried negotiation and diplomacy. You responded with war and tried to wipe us out completely. Now it's our turn to set the terms. The humans left the chamber, leaving the alien leaders alone with their fear and their impossible choices. Outside in the corridor, Colonel Webb looked at Admiral Brooks with concern. Do you think they'll choose war? Webb asked. Helen smiled grimly. Colonel, these are the same species that attacked us when we were weak and scattered. Now that we're strong and united, what do you think they'll do? The answer came 3 days later when alien fleets began moving toward the border systems. War was coming, and the galaxy was about to learn why humanity had spent 500 years preparing for this moment. Admiral Kevin Stone stood on the bridge of the Redemption, watching the enemy fleet approach through the dark space around Haven's system. The aliens had brought everything they could find, 500 ships from 3 different species all working together to stop humanity's return. Kevin almost felt sorry for them. Enemy fleet entering weapons range in 10 minutes, Captain Laura Fields reported from the Phoenix Rising. Her ship was positioned on the right flank of the human formation, along with 8 other vessels that looked tiny compared to the massive alien armada. Ghostwalker reporting enemy communications intercepted, came the voice of Commander Dan Price from his stealth ship. They're arguing about who gets to attack first. The Zephyrians want to use their new plasma cannons. The Talaxians think they should lead with their missile swarms, and the Corvan want to ram us with their battleships. Kevin shook his head. After 500 years, the aliens were still making the same mistakes that had cost them the first war. They relied on brute force instead of strategy, numbers instead of technology, and fear instead of intelligence. All ships. This is Admiral Stone, Kevin announced over the communication system. Remember, we're not here to destroy everything. We want this system back in working condition. Disable their ships if possible. Destroy them only if necessary. The alien fleet spread out as it approached, trying to surround the small human force. Kevin watched them position themselves and felt like he was reading a children's book. Their tactics were so old and predictable that the human computers had already calculated 17 different ways to defeat them. Admiral, his tactical officer Lieutenant Gary Brooks said, "The aliens are hailing us. Should I put them through?" "Why not?" "Let's hear what they have to say." The main screen flickered, showing the face of a Zephyrian admiral with angry yellow eyes and scarred green scales. Behind him, Kevin could see the primitive bridge of an alien warship, all exposed wiring and manual controls. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Klex of the Galactic Defense Alliance. You are outnumbered 50 to 1. Surrender now and we will allow you to live as prisoners." Kevin smiled politely. "Admiral Klex, this is Admiral Stone of the Human Federation. I appreciate your offer, but I'm afraid we'll have to decline. However, I'd like to make you a counteroffer. Surrender now and we'll allow you to live." The alien admiral's eyes went wide with rage. "You mock us, human. Your tiny fleet cannot possibly defeat our armada." "Admiral," Kevin said patiently, 500 years ago you made the mistake of underestimating humanity. I had hoped you might have learned something from that experience." The transmission cut off as the alien fleet opened fire. Space lit up with thousands of energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile trails, all aimed at the 10 human ships. It was the most massive display of firepower that the galaxy had seen in decades. None of it reached its target. The human ships were surrounded by shimmering blue fields that absorbed every shot, without even flickering. The adaptive energy shields had been humanity's first major breakthrough during their exile. They could absorb any form of energy and convert it into power for the ship's systems. "Shield absorption at 12%, reported Lieutenant Brooks. "The alien weapons are actually charging our batteries." Kevin nodded. "Return fire. Precision shots only. Target their engines and weapon systems." The human ships fired back with beams of coherent light that moved faster than the aliens could track. Each shot was perfectly aimed, striking exactly where it needed to disable an enemy vessel without destroying it. Within 30 seconds, half the alien fleet was drifting helplessly in space. "Impossible," came Admiral Klex's voice over the communication system. "No weapons can be that accurate." "Quantum targeting computers," Kevin explained calmly. "They calculate the exact position of every enemy ship down to the molecular level. Missing is literally impossible." The remaining alien ships tried to retreat, but the human vessels moved faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. The Redemption's fold space drive allowed it to jump instantly from one position to another, appearing behind enemy ships before they even knew it had moved. Captain Fields on the Phoenix Rising was using a different approach. Her ship fired clouds of microscopic robots that swarmed over enemy vessels, disabling their systems from the inside. The nanobots were so small that alien sensors couldn't detect them until it was too late. Commander Price on the Ghostwalker remained invisible throughout the entire battle, appearing only to disable key enemy ships before vanishing again. His temporal displacement field allowed him to exist slightly outside normal time, making him impossible to target or even see. Within an hour, the entire alien fleet was either destroyed or captured. The massive armada that was supposed to crush humanity's return had been defeated without a single human casualty. Down on the planet Haven, Major Ben Cross led his Special Forces team through the alien-occupied city. The planet's surface had been strip-mined and polluted during 5 centuries of alien rule. Where once there had been beautiful human cities, Now there were ugly industrial complexes and toxic waste dumps. "This is disgusting," Sergeant Katie Mills said, looking at the poisoned river that ran through what used to be the capital city. "They destroyed everything we built here." Ben nodded grimly. The aliens had treated the former human worlds like resources to be exploited, rather than homes to be protected. It would take years to repair the environmental damage they had caused. "Movement ahead," reported Corporal Nick Walsh, who was scouting with advanced sensors that could see through walls and detect heartbeats from miles away. "Alien garrison, about 200 soldiers holed up in the old government building." "Any human prisoners?" Ben asked. "Negative, sir. But there are definitely civilians in the area. Looks like the aliens are using them as human shields." Ben smiled coldly. Using civilians as protection was another old alien tactic that hadn't worked 500 years ago and wouldn't work now. "Katie, deploy the extraction pods. Nick, set up the neural disruptors. We're going to show these aliens why they should never threaten innocent people." The extraction pods materialized around each civilian, protective fields that could transport them to safety instantly. The neural disruptors sent out waves that paralyzed the alien soldiers without harming anyone else. Within minutes, the garrison was captured and the civilians were safe. Back in space, Admiral Stone received reports from liberation teams across the system. Every alien military position had been captured, every enemy ship disabled, and every human descendant on the planet had been freed from alien occupation. "Admiral," Lieutenant Brooks said, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from alien commanders across the sector. They want to negotiate." Kevin looked at the tactical display showing dozens of enemy fleets retreating in panic. Word of humanity's victory was spreading faster than the aliens could move. Their commanders were beginning to understand that they were facing an enemy they couldn't possibly defeat. Dr. Simon Hayes appeared on the communication screen from his research ship. The elderly scientist looked pleased with the battle's results. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the alien technology we captured. It's exactly what we expected. They've barely advanced at all during our absence." "What about our biological enhancements?" Kevin asked. "How are the troops adapting?" "Perfectly. Enhanced reflexes, improved strength, quantum-linked coordination. Our soldiers are operating at peak efficiency. The aliens simply can't match human performance when we're working at our full potential." Kevin nodded with satisfaction. The biological improvements had been humanity's greatest achievement during their exile. They hadn't just built better ships and weapons, they had made themselves better too. "All ships prepare for the next phase," Kevin announced. "We have 18 more systems to liberate, and the aliens are finally starting to understand what they're facing." As the human fleet moved toward their next target, Kevin reflected on how much had changed. 500 years ago, humanity had been driven from these stars by alien aggression. Now they were back stronger than ever, and the galaxy was learning that humans never stayed down for long. News reporter Alex Chen stood on the observation deck of the news ship Star Herald, watching the liberation of New Terra unfold below. The planet had been one of humanity's most beautiful colonies before the war, known for its crystal cities and floating gardens. Now it was covered with ugly alien factories and mining operations that had poisoned the air and water. "This is Alex Chen reporting live from New Terra System," she said into her camera, "where human forces have just completed another lightning-fast victory against the Galactic Defense Alliance. What makes this liberation special is that we've discovered thousands of human descendants who have been living in hiding for 500 years." The camera showed transport, ships landing in secret valleys where small communities of humans had survived by staying hidden from their alien occupiers. These people were the children and grandchildren of colonists who had escaped the initial alien invasion centuries ago. Captain Jennifer Wells commanded the assault ship Thunder Bay as it approached the fortress world of Drakmor. The planet was supposed to be impossible to attack, protected by energy shields and defended by an entire alien fleet. The Corvin Syndicate had spent 200 years turning it into their ultimate stronghold. "Captain," her tactical officer, Lieutenant Roy Clark, reported, "the planet's shields are at maximum power. Intelligence says they're strong enough to stop anything we can throw at them." Jennifer smiled. Intelligence was wrong, but that wasn't their fault. The aliens had no way of knowing about humanity's latest weapons development. "Charge the reality disruptor," Jennifer ordered. "Target the shield generators." The reality disruptor was humanity's most advanced weapon, something that would have been impossible to build without 5 centuries of technological advancement. It didn't fire energy or matter. Instead, it fired mathematics, equations that told the universe to behave differently in a small area of space. When the weapon fired, the alien shield simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not overloaded, but edited out of reality as if they had never been built in the first place. The alien defenders watched in horror as their ultimate protection vanished like it was just a bad dream. "Impossible!" screamed the Corvin commander over the communication system. "Those shields were powered by 3 fusion reactors. Nothing can penetrate them." "You're right," Jennifer replied calmly. "Nothing can penetrate them. But we didn't penetrate them. We just convinced the universe that they never existed in the first place. The liberation of Drakmor took 6 hours. What should have been a months-long siege ended before the alien defenders could even understand what was happening to them. Across the galaxy, desperate alien governments were trying everything they could think of to stop the human advance. The Corvin Syndicate had taken human civilians prisoner, threatening to kill them if the human fleet didn't withdraw. Commander Tony Clark specialized in impossible rescues. His ship, the Miracle Worker, appeared in orbit around the Corvin prison planet using a teleportation system that the aliens couldn't detect or understand. "Sir," his communications officer Lieutenant Beth Adams reported, "the Corvin are threatening to execute the prisoners if we don't leave immediately." Tony checked his equipment one more time. The quantum extraction system could identify and transport specific individuals across vast distances, but it required perfect timing and coordination. "Tell them we're leaving," Tony said, "then activate the extraction protocol." One moment, 3,000 human prisoners were trapped in alien cells. The next moment, they were standing safely on the deck of Tony's ship, having been teleported through solid walls and energy barriers as if they weren't even there. The Corvin guards found themselves staring at empty cells, unable to understand how 3,000 people had simply vanished from a maximum security prison. President Maria Santos addressed the galaxy from the bridge of the Constitution, humanity's new capital ship. The vessel was beautiful in a way that alien technology couldn't match, all flowing curves and crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them. "People of the galaxy," Maria said, her voice being translated into hundreds of alien languages, "I want you to understand what humanity has become during our centuries in exile." The transmission showed images of human colonies spread across dozens of star systems. Cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants, underwater civilizations that had learned to live in the depths of alien oceans, and space habitats that housed millions of people in perfect comfort. "We didn't just survive," Maria continued. "We evolved. We became something greater than we were before. Our technology can cure diseases that have plagued your species for millennia. Our science can restore dead worlds to life. Our medicine can extend lifespans indefinitely." She paused, letting the aliens absorb what she was telling them. "But most importantly, we learned to work together. Every human in our Federation is connected through quantum communication links that allow us to share thoughts, emotions, and knowledge instantly. We have become truly unified in a way that your divided species cannot understand." The turning point in the war came when General Frank Moore, humanity's greatest strategic mind, set his sights on the Zephyrian homeworld. The planet was defended by the largest fleet in galactic history, protected by weapons that could destroy entire moons, and surrounded by early warning systems that could detect approaching enemies from light years away. Frank's ship, the Inevitable, appeared in the Zephyrian system without triggering a single alarm. His temporal manipulation technology allowed him to exist in a state of quantum superposition, neither fully in the present nor completely in the past. The Zephyrian defenders never saw him coming because he was attacking them yesterday while talking to them today. By the time they realized they were under attack, their entire military infrastructure had already been captured by soldiers who had arrived before the battle started. "This is General Moore to all Zephyrian forces," Frank announced over their communication system. "Your homeworld is now under human control. Your government has been arrested. Your military has been disbanded. Your war is over." The Zephyrian fleet commander, Admiral Vexthor, stared at his tactical display in complete confusion. According to his sensors, human ships had somehow captured every military base on the planet without firing a single shot. "How is this possible?" Vexthor demanded. "We had early warning systems. We had planetary shields. We had the strongest defenses in the galaxy." "Admiral," Frank replied patiently, "you had all of those things tomorrow. Today we took them away yesterday." Time is just another dimension that humans have learned to navigate. Meanwhile, Agent Lisa Park sat in a coffee shop on the Talaxian capital world, sipping tea and reading a newspaper, while her quantum computer hacked into every alien communication network simultaneously. She looked like an ordinary tourist, but she was actually humanity's most effective intelligence officer. Within hours, Lisa knew the location of every alien fleet, the contents of every secret message, and the plans of every alien government. The aliens were trying to form a final coalition against humanity, but their every move was known before they made it. Lisa to command, she said quietly into her communication device. The aliens are planning something called Operation Last Hope. They want to combine all their remaining fleets and attack our main colony world. Do they know where our main colony is? Came the reply from Human Command. Lisa smiled as she intercepted another alien message. They think it's in the Centauri system. They have no idea that our real capital is in a pocket dimension that exists outside normal spacetime. The aliens' final desperate attack was doomed before it began. They assembled the largest fleet in galactic history, 5,000 ships carrying weapons that could crack planets, only to find empty space when they arrived at their target. The real human fleet was waiting for them, not in normal space but in the quantum foam that existed between dimensions. Admiral Stone's forces emerged from nowhere, surrounding the alien armada before they could react. "Attention, alien fleet," Admiral Stone announced. "This is your final chance to surrender. Choose wisely." Looking at the hopeless situation around them, the alien commanders finally understood that they were facing an enemy that had moved far beyond anything they could comprehend. One by one, their ships began transmitting surrender signals. The war was over. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and no force in the universe could stop them. The final battle above the galactic capital lasted exactly 17 minutes. Ambassador Carol Wright stood on the observation deck of the Diplomacy, watching as the last alien fleet surrendered to Admiral Marcus Bell's forces. The human admiral had surrounded the enemy ships with weapons that could erase entire star systems, but he never fired a single shot. "This is Admiral Bell to all remaining alien forces," Marcus announced over the communication system. "The war is over. Stand down your weapons and prepare to receive boarding parties. You will be treated with respect and dignity." Carol had spent her entire career studying alien cultures and languages. She understood that this moment would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for centuries to come. How they handled victory would determine whether they became beloved leaders or feared tyrants. "Admiral," Carol said into her communication device. "May I address the alien fleet?" Marcus nodded on the screen. "Go ahead, Ambassador. They need to hear from someone who understands diplomacy." Carol activated the wideband transmitter that would reach every alien ship in the system. "This is Ambassador Carol Wright of the Human Federation. To all alien commanders and crews, I want you to know that this war is ending, but your lives are not. Humanity seeks partnership, not domination." On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship Vengeance, Admiral Kleck stared at his screens in defeat. His fleet was completely surrounded by human ships that seemed to bend space around them. His weapons were useless against their impossible technology. His proud warrior species had been reduced to begging for mercy. "Human Ambassador," Kleck said, his voice heavy with resignation, "what terms do you offer for our surrender?" Carol's voice came back calm and reassuring. "Admiral, we offer you the same thing we offer all species, a chance to join the new galactic commonwealth as equal partners. Your people will retain their homeworlds, their culture, and their freedom. All we ask is that you work with us to build a better galaxy." The alien commanders couldn't believe what they were hearing. Throughout galactic history, the winners of wars had enslaved the losers, stolen their worlds, and destroyed their cultures. But humanity was offering something completely different. Legal expert Judge Andrew King worked with representatives from every alien species to draft the new galactic treaty. The document was unlike anything that had ever been written before. Instead of listing punishments for the defeated aliens, it outlined a plan for cooperation and mutual benefit. The new galactic commonwealth will be governed by elected representatives from all member species. Andrew explained to the alien delegates, "Humans will not rule over you. We will work together to solve the problems that face all of us." War Chief Thrax of the Corvin Syndicate was confused by the human approach. "Why do you not claim the right of conquest? Your military power is absolute. You could take whatever you wanted from us." Judge King smiled patiently. War Chief, conquest is what weak species do when they cannot create anything better for themselves. Humanity learned long ago that cooperation produces far greater results than domination. The treaty included provisions that amazed the alien delegates. Humans would share their medical technology to cure diseases that had killed billions of aliens over the centuries. They would clean up the environmental damage that had been done to occupied worlds. They would establish trade networks that would bring prosperity to all species. Security Chief Paula Gray oversaw the peaceful transition of power on thousands of worlds. Her teams worked with local alien governments to ensure that the change in leadership caused no disruption to ordinary citizens. The most important thing, Paula explained to her officers, is that people feel safe and secure. Whether they're human, Zephyrian, Talaxian, or Corvan, everyone deserves to live without fear. On the former human world of New Eden, Paula watched as human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to repair a water treatment plant that had been damaged during the war. The cooperation between species was awkward at first, but gradually became more natural as they realized they were working toward the same goal. Chief, her assistant Lieutenant Carlos Martinez reported, "The alien workers are asking if they can learn how to use our quantum tools. They say their old equipment is too slow and unreliable." Paula nodded. "Show them everything they want to know. Knowledge is meant to be shared." The most dramatic changes came in the field of medicine. Dr. Lisa Hammond led teams of human doctors who worked with alien physicians to eliminate diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. The Zephyrian scale rot, the Talaxian brain fever, and the Corvan genetic deterioration all became things of the past. "This is incredible," said Dr. Yexmol, a Talaxian physician who had spent his career fighting diseases he could never cure. "Your nanomedical technology can repair damaged tissue at the cellular level. You've made healing into an exact science." Dr. Hammond smiled as she watched human nanobots cure a Corvan child who had been born with a genetic defect. "Doctor, this is just the beginning. Once we've eliminated all the known diseases, we can start working on extending lifespans and improving quality of life for everyone." The environmental restoration projects were equally impressive. Human terraforming technology could restore dead worlds to life within months instead of centuries. Polluted oceans became clean again, poisoned atmospheres were purified, and extinct species were brought back using genetic templates stored in quantum databases. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Harmony, as it orbited the restored world of Haven. The planet that had been strip-mined and polluted by alien occupation was now more beautiful than it had ever been before. "Sir," his science officer, Lieutenant Patricia Young, reported, "the ecosystem restoration is complete. All native species have been reintroduced, the atmosphere is perfectly balanced, and the oceans are cleaner than they've been in centuries." Jake smiled as he watched alien children playing alongside human kids in the parks below. The two species had been enemies for 500 years, but their children didn't seem to care about old grudges and ancient wars. "Admiral," Patricia continued, "we're receiving reports from across the Commonwealth. Similar restoration projects are succeeding on over 300 worlds. The aliens are calling it the Great Healing. The economic benefits of the new Galactic Commonwealth were felt by everyone. Human replicator technology could create any material or product instantly, eliminating scarcity and poverty. Alien workers found themselves with shorter hours but higher living standards as automated systems handled dangerous and tedious jobs. Trade networks connected every world in the Commonwealth, allowing for the free exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. Zephyrian artists created beautiful sculptures using human crystalline materials. Talaxian musicians composed symphonies that incorporated human quantum harmonics. Corvan engineers built massive structures using human gravitational manipulation technology. President Maria Santos held the first Commonwealth Assembly on the restored world of Unity, where representatives from every species gathered to plan their shared future. The planet had been chosen specifically because it had no previous ties to any single species, making it a symbol of the new cooperation between all members. "Friends," Maria said as she addressed the assembly, 500 years ago we were enemies. Today we are partners. Tomorrow we can be something even greater. Together we can explore new galaxies, discover new forms of life, and push the boundaries of what is possible." The assembly hall was filled with beings from dozens of different species, all working together to solve problems that had seemed impossible just months before. Former enemies were now close allies, sharing knowledge and resources to build a better future for everyone. Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the streets of New Geneva, a mixed-species city that had been built from scratch as a symbol of Commonwealth unity. Human families lived next door to Zephyrian clans, Talaxian flocks, and Corvan packs. The children of all species played together in parks designed by artists from across the galaxy. Admiral, a young Corvan named Grexta, approached him. Speaking perfect English, "My grandfather fought against humans in the war. He says he cannot understand how you defeated us so completely, yet treat us so kindly." Jake knelt down to speak with the child at eye level. "Grexta, we defeated your armies because we had to protect ourselves. But we treat you kindly because that's who humans choose to be. Strength without compassion is just bullying." The child thought about this for a moment. "My grandfather also says that humans are the strangest warriors he has ever heard of, because you fight harder to save your enemies than most species fight to defeat them." Jake laughed. "Your grandfather is a wise being. Tell him that the greatest victory is not destroying your enemy, but turning them into a friend." As Jake continued his walk through the city, he reflected on how much had changed. 500 years ago, humanity had been driven from the galaxy by alien aggression. They could have returned seeking revenge, could have used their superior technology to enslave their former enemies. Instead, they had chosen a different path. They had used their strength to protect the weak, their knowledge to heal the sick, and their technology to restore damaged worlds. They had shown the galaxy that true power came